Hello, everyone, and I don't know, 10 of you, God, 10, that's being generous, uh, anyone who's listening, and welcome to my personal pet project, I guess, Art Matters, with me, Philus, Phil, whatever you want to call me. Basically, the whole idea is I want to have artist guests on and talk about art, whether it's drawing, music, photography. Hell, if I find someone who does sculpting, I will totally have them on. That would be amazing. Anything that can be considered art is something I want to talk about, and something that I just, you know, I'm doing this because I love art. So, with me today is actually a friend of mine from work, Trevor. So, if you want to introduce yourself, start this thing.
Right. I haven't really ever done this before, but I have been working on art for pretty much my whole life. And you mentioned sculpting earlier, and I was like, wait a minute, I sculpt.
Oh,
I
that's
pretty much
awesome.
I don't. It's not like my main go-to, but I can do it.
Okay.
There's a lot of little things like off to the side. I mainly do a lot of drawing, whether that be actual pencil paper, which is traditional. I've worked with paints. I work mainly with markers and like inking pens for doing my line art and stuff. But I also do with like digital stuff, so stuff with computer, programs like Photoshop. And there's a program I use that's SAI. I call it SAI. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it,
I,
but I
I,
have my own. What was
sorry,
that?
I was gonna
Go
say
ahead.
I've heard people call it Psy. I've heard it. So,
Okay, yeah, that's what I call it. Like the markers I use, I hear people call them Copics or Copics. I call them Copics. I think Copic is the right way to say it, but you know what? I'm in my own house behind my own doors. I can call them whatever the hell I want.
that is true. So,
But yeah, my clientele are online, most of them. I've done a few jobs for people at work, but I mostly just sell online to people that really like animals.
yeah, I've noticed that from
Yeah.
some of the commission work. I think I caught like a couple on Facebook, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I mean,
Yep.
I mean, I'm I used to be one to judge, and then I realized that made me a jackass. So, no, I've learned to just kind of look at it and be like,
Mhm.
good art.
Right. Well, see, I remember when I first kind of got into the community that I'm in, I got really sucked in, almost to it was so bad it was almost toxic,
Ooh,
and I got to know a lot of not so great people, but then I got to know a lot of really good people. And as I've been in it, I mean, I've been in this community for over 10 years, and there are a lot of amazing people. There's a lot of talent, but there's also a lot of drama. So I just do art. I just, do art for the people and then just kind of keep to myself. I find that that's just easier.
yeah, that's fair. Uh,
Yeah.
Speaking of doing commissions for people from work, I do have something that I need to put together in my head, but
Mhm.
I might have a commission job for you. So,
Okay. Yeah.
something to kind of because I stream on occasion, and I wanted to. It's mainly been Pokemon centric, so that's why I
Mhm.
was putting together an idea in my head of like what I'll I'll explain it when I have a more concrete idea,
Oh,
because
that's fine.
otherwise I'm just gonna sound it's gonna be all nebulous and stuff. So, because God knows I've never had to commission anything before, and I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, the thing I hear people complain, or artists complain about the most is like, they don't know what they want,
uh
and I'm like, okay, I can't be that guy because I know I can be that guy where I'm
Right.
like, do this, they do it, and I go,
That's not what was in my head.
that's not,
And
yeah, but
and
the
well, I was just gonna say, if you want an artist to get something close to what you want, my suggestion, and this is what I've done with some of my clients before, is I've had them sketch it. It's like, I don't care if it's stick people, just sketch it out so I can kind of see where you're coming from.
Okay, yeah, that might be what I have to do because
Mm-hmm.
I've got it in my head and I've got decent enough references for
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I'm going for, but I might have to do that. But yeah, since this is going up on the Cornucopia channel, people who happen to listen to my podcast will know me as oh my god. I'm that one guy who has really hard opinions, gives a lot of people shit, and for some reason almost every week has a story about talking to women and that just going poorly.
Huh. That sounds like it could be interesting, honestly.
There's a very particular episode. I think it was 11 where I got to describe probably the saddest one. I mean, there's a big nuclear one that I could talk about, and you would know who I'm making reference to that I cannot share
Mm-hmm.
because they might because I mean honestly because it'd be shitty to do that.
Right, you don't want that to come back on you.
No, and plus I'm talking to them again, so
Right. Yeah.
that'd
Yeah.
be really weird.
Exactly.
But yeah, there was a good one with one of the seasonals that just I got real in my head and it went
Ooh.
real bad. I mean, it
Ooh.
wasn't horrible, but it was so embarrassing and then they just disappeared.
Like, stop coming to work.
Yeah. Like
Oh.
like 2
Ooh.
days after, they were just gone and I was like, "Oh no."
You did it. You scared her away.
I was so scared of that. Oh god, but yeah, I almost don't want to spoil it because it's really great in the podcast because it leaned into a decent joke that kind of helps glue it all together. That was really fun. So
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
I have so many social stories because I keep trying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got god awful anxiety. So that's another thing I've been thinking about doing a podcast for. But I'm getting real far off the beaten path here. So I guess I should explain my end on this because this will probably be a bit confusing. I've probably said it on the podcast once or twice that I like, I love art, I love music, but my background with art is basically my mom and my grandmother are artists in
Mm-hmm.
one way or another. My grandmother paints, and she has painted for I don't even know how long. She's got like there's like a couple of my grandmother's paintings in my mom's house, hanging up, plus a couple of her
Mm-hmm.
own. And my mom kind of bounced around different art forms, and now she makes clothing,
Oh, that's cool.
which I wish I was on better terms with her so that I could get her on this podcast because that's another one of like, you don't hear about that one very much.
Mm-mm. No, you don't.
So that would be really awesome if I could do that, but that's not likely to happen. So, but yeah, the weird part is that I primarily live with my dad. My dad's an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So engineer turned pseudo lawyer ish thing because he worked in he worked with the electric company with their regulatory law.
Okay.
So, but he wasn't like anti art. So I had like most of my time was kind of like in a neutral space for art, whereas when I would spend time with like my mom, it was like, yeah, do art. Art's
Got it.
art's like a thing to do, and I just got all this encouragement from that side. And then going to my dad's, it was just kind of neutral. So what ended up kind of happening was that like I've drawn, painted, like not to a very big extent. Like drawing was definitely one where I put in a lot of time, relatively speaking to other things. Drawn, painted. Well, it was mostly drawing for a while. It was usually drawing with pictures as a reference, which became really fun because I remember showing somebody like, "Yo, check this out." It's like, that's Trace. Because I showed him the picture and I showed him what I drew. And he's like, "Yo, that's Trace." And I'm like, layer them over each other. Because I was really good with ratios. So, like, this line compared to this line, that's how I would draw. And, you layer it over and it doesn't fit because it's not the same.
Right.
It's not this. I didn't trace it. So, like, there was definitely. I think the biggest thing was that I didn't get a lot of encouragement during most of the time I would spend doing drawing. So I ended up, where I got the most encouragement was in my writing. And so, like, in school, I basically got told, "You're a good writer." And I was like, okay. I don't think I am, but okay.
Sometimes things just come naturally to certain people, and apparently writing is your gift.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a gift. Like, because the number one thing that happened was that I got into reading real early. I read the Harry Potter books when I was like in third grade
Jeez.
because I could. My mom was like,
Well, I was gonna say I remember reading those in like 7th grade.
"Oh,
So, yeah.
no, the first and second book were out when I was in third grade, and my mom literally handed me the first book just because I looked at that book. It was an adult book. It was a book for better readers than me, and then she just handed it to me and said, "Read. Can you read it?" And keep going. So, yeah, my mom got me into reading, and I credit that with my writing skill because it increased my vocabulary, and you see a lot of words, so it helps with writing. And
Well, it also kind of teaches you how to format sentences and how to write.
Yes, I would say I am an expert in taking simple thoughts and fluffing them up.
Exactly. That's from reading.
Yes, I am very good at adding the fluff so that my writing seems intelligent. Something that I learned in school that got me a lot of positive feedback. So I think reading is kind of where it started, but the weirdest part was that writing was the thing I was told I was good at. So of course writing becomes my go-to, but I hate writing for the sake of reading.
What do you mean by that?
When I write as if I'm going to write a book, I don't like what I write.
Got it.
Which, I mean, as far as I've been able to tell, that's any artist. You are overly critical of what you make.
Yep, you're your own worst critic. That's exactly what it is.
But, like, I also don't really have fun.
Oh. Yeah, fun. You need to have fun.
So, because there's another aspect to this that'll lead into where this is going, because this all kind of converges at a point that leads me to where I want to take my art. So, I got into public speaking very early. My first real big public speaking thing, I think, was in elementary school. I think in 4th or 5th grade. I gave a big speech about Martin Luther King Jr. in front of the entire school. So I
That's
learned.
bravery right there.
Oh, it was scary, but being in those situations so early got me used to speaking
Mm-hmm.
in front of people and being used to, okay, everyone's eyes are on me, and
Right.
and then getting more comfortable with spoken word and realizing that whenever I write, I prefer, mainly because most of my writing, quote unquote, has been texting, and I converted my texting into getting as close as I could to how I speak.
Okay.
And like I make it a point to, like, when I text someone, to just kind of do it off the cuff and not think about it too hard. That way it's more like a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be more accurate to a conversation you would have with me in person. But I also just prefer to speak. I prefer face-to-face conversations. So that starts to feed into something. And then we get the music aspect, which is something I only recently started to pick up on. So I've always loved music and just never really realized it. Like, my mom would play all sorts of music, like, play for me music. Like, she didn't perform music,
Okay.
uh, but
Okay.
but she loved to put on like swing and stuff and make me dance with her, which was one of those fond memories. Even though
I
I
was
was,
gonna say it sounds like your mom was pretty good. Like she was a pretty good mom. She taught you a lot.
I don't want to get into it on this podcast, but I have to disagree with her being a good mom. But there was a lot she did for me. A lot she The problem is that a lot of this came from a a viewpoint of, this is what I like, so you're going to like it.
Got it.
So, and yeah, we can talk about it off the podcast. I can explain to you kind of what my mom was like.
Right, but at the end of the day, even though if she wasn't like a good mom as far as taking care of you in whatever sense it was, she was still a good mom and teaching you lessons. So you learned a lot about yourself and a lot about what you liked or didn't like or who you want to be or who you don't want to be.
Oh yeah.
So even if she wasn't good in the normal sense of good, she was still good because she taught you lessons that not everybody gets to learn.
My mom defines a great deal of who I am, either through what I learned from her or what I learned to be contrarian to her.
Mm-hmm.
Things I didn't want to be. So,
Right.
yes, she is probably the biggest influence on my entire life. So, plus, yeah, like, and the funny part is that nobody I know was into music. So, like, they liked music. It was just an added thing. But, like, when I really think back on it, like, I loved going to band. I loved singing. Well, I didn't love singing in church because I was embarrassed, but I liked the songs in church
Mm-hmm.
when I used to go. And I'm technically confirmed Catholic. To
Okay.
say that I am Catholic, though, is probably a stretch. There's a lot of things I disagree with, but so, and like, I did show choir for a year. Like, I forget that I did that because that was back in like seventh grade, and
Yeah.
then I stopped because I was embarrassed. But I loved it. I loved it so much. And I just kind of forgot about music for a really long time. Like, it was just in the background. Like, I was in bands, but recently I started to really, like, I was always into all sorts of different kinds of music. I can find something I like in pretty much every genre,
Mm-hmm.
except for country's real rough. never used to listen to country, and it's very difficult for me to find something I like. I found one song once, but it wasn't good enough for me to like put it in my playlist.
Right.
And then like real heavy metal just kind of, it's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that doesn't mean I think any of it is bad. I think all music is legitimate, all art is legitimate, whether it's no matter what it is. So I realized somewhat recently that music might be the one, the thing that I love the most because it affects me the most. Like I can, if I put in my headphones, put on music, I can do just about anything and enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of nuts. So all this leads to a point where, in my mid-20s, I discovered hip hop and rap, and like it had been around sort of, but it really started to click with me when I discovered a specific artist named Too Mellow, who is an introvert and raps about that shit. Oh boy. Sorry, that would be my phone. So I suddenly had someone who loved the music, wasn't ashamed about it, and was like, and literally has a song about how he's not a party person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it makes me laugh every time because it's like, yeah, like I'm not a party going person, but like music fucking moves me. So
Right.
so it took me a bit to get past like the sort of obsession phase with him specifically and start to really piece it into who I am. And I realized like I love to write for what's spoken, and I love this style of music. So why don't I write rap and put my own beats behind it? That's my
And
current.
have you?
I have written lyrics. I need to teach myself music because I have never taken a music theory class, which I've been told kind of important.
Probably.
Because you got to understand how music is structured because
Gotcha.
you can do it wrong. So
Well, you can do anything wrong.
that's true, but like I realized like there are things like I listen to music probably up to like 10 hours a day, because I listen to it at work, but there are things I just don't have labels for that I don't understand, and I'm like, okay, once like I'm essentially writing poetry
Yep.
that'll fit into that I will put music behind, and then I can speak my mind in a way that I get this ability to express myself in a way that in an art form that I love. And so, yeah, so thank God I actually started writing before I started doing this podcast because that would have been real embarrassing. But yeah, basically I make it a point at break, I write like one or two lines. And I do it every day. And I realize like after a week, like I've got a lot written here. I've actually got like a song's worth. Holy crap.
That's actually really smart in using your time.
Yeah.
Especially with work. Then you're actually being productive for yourself at work than just being productive for work itself.
Yeah. So it won't be happening anytime soon, but there are a lot. I could go on and on about like what I love in music, what I want to do. I do know one thing though. I want to find a female vocalist for at least one album.
Oh, that would be
because
cool.
because I love female vocals. High octave female vocals are just so good. They don't even have to be. I don't even have to understand them. It's the sound.
Right.
And
No, I get it.
that's the fun part in explaining to people. It's like I'm a sound person. I
Mm-hmm.
like sounds. It's why I like certain words. It's why there are just there's specific kinds of sounds that really get me. Like I think one that I kind of picked up on is like I feel like I'm just rambling about something random, but
Nah, you're talking about music and what you love about it. That's
yeah,
not random.
like I like the specific sound of like stone, like walking on stone with
Mm-hmm.
a it would it wouldn't be wood, but like metal on a wood or metal on a stone floor,
No, I
or
can see it.
just a hard enough shoe. I
Yep.
love that sound. I love the sound of wood, like a small piece of wood makes this really higher pitch kind of not quite a clicking noise, but it's like you take like a piece of like balsa wood and you
Mm-hmm.
like tap that on something. Like I'm a big fan of that, which has made me want to like grab like a pair of chopsticks and just like record some beats with that, just because
You could.
I like that sound. Yeah, so yes, so that's why I want to find someone who sings, and then I want to like shove money at them to like do this for me, because number one, I'm big on supporting artists, because it's it's not. I think it's a mistake to refer to it as a talent, because it creates this image that it requires no effort.
Right.
So I like to call art skills, because they do require that time investment.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get good at them. Like the only reason I'm good at writing is because I did it a lot. Like even when I was in high school, I would fill up notebooks with. I mean, there were philosophical ramblings, but it was writing,
Right.
and I constantly text people, so I'm writing a lot, even if it's just casual conversation. And I speak plenty, so I get to hone that part of my skill set. So yeah, I'm very passionate about like supporting artists fairly and understanding that it is a skill, and it's a skill that not many people have, and so you should respect that,
Mm-hmm.
because Lord knows there are plenty of people, businesses, what have you, that don't respect the time and effort it takes to make art.
Right.
It's kind of embarrassing, and it upsets me quite a bit, because it's just like these people are putting they're almost not even metaphorically putting a piece of themselves out there every time.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so like you gotta give that its due respect, or we end up where we're at now, where it's almost socially acceptable to just kind of treat artists like dirt, because it's hard enough to be an artist as it is, so we can lowball them.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of in the community that I'm in, where you give an artist will give somebody a price, and that person will go, "Well, that's too high. I can't afford that," and then they'll turn around and commission somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, no, no. If you can't afford it, first off, most artists have their prices listed somewhere. You
Hmm.
should be able to find them. And then
Yes.
if you can't afford it, say, well, I thank you for your time and for the quote. And then you walk away. Don't ever tell an artist, well, that's too expensive. I can't afford it.
I can only imagine that making you feel like shit if you're not ready enough for that.
Right. Since I've been doing it so long, it used to kind of make me feel like shit, but now it makes me so pissed off I want to punch them. It's like, no, no, no. You are an adult. You should know how to talk to another adult like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hard. And just because the computer takes away the whole face-to-face interaction, so it's not like you're looking this person in the eye and going, your art's too expensive for me. It's still, you should at least treat them kindly, because even though you can't see their face, there's still a human being behind the phone conversation or your keyboard or whatever, wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm.
There's always still a person behind that.
Yeah.
And well, it's just that I went and I have my bachelor's degree in art.
Oh, cool.
So I've put the time in, I put the money in.
Mm-hmm.
So my prices my prices are where they are meant to be due to my skill set.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't take that into consideration either.
Yeah, it's
I know it is what it is, and I still do good business. I still have lots of amazing customers, but every once in a while I get one of those,
mm-hmm.
and I just kind of have to sit back and go, oh yeah, this still exists, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. God, it frustrates me so much because, like the reason I have so much passion for this is that, like I said, I've been sort of raised to have a love for art, and then I started listening to or watching actually some YouTubers who they do Let's Plays. They were part of the video game industry, but a number of them were actually art majors,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're very careful and they're very careful about commissions. They're very outspoken about I think the funniest thing they always talked about was like doing it for the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Just so it's so funny and infuriating all at the same time. Just the concept of like you'll do it for free because it'll get you out there. It's like,
Right.
but if I'm not getting paid, I'm almost wasting my time. So
Right.
it's just like, yeah, no, like because they're real big on the respect for artists that in their stories and their explanations, I learned that man, artists get treated like crap, and
They can.
well, I guess I hear a lot more stories from like businesses more so than individuals. Although the individuals are probably the most point and laugh kind of terrible. But like even Too Mellow had one where in one of his songs he put up all of the DMs he's ever gotten, like sort of he messed with them enough that they could be lyrics, but one of them that he got was about this company that's like he apparently got dumped by his record company,
Mm-hmm.
and he got this DM from some group. It's like, we know you got dumped by your old recording company, but we'd like to have you. We've got people who are willing to invest. So can you send us some sample work? We won't pay you. Well, obviously they don't say that part, but it's like no implication that they're going to pay for that work. They just want, you can throw together some samples. It's
It's
like,
like you've got the time.
yeah, no, you're an artist. That's all you do. And you just put it together like that, right? It's like, are you insane?
It's like not exactly, but
I mean,
that's what you want to believe.
I mean, I mean, any artist probably could throw together something real quick, but that's not necessarily going to be your best work.
Mm-hmm.
So just
No,
that
I
just
get it.
that just rubs me every wrong way. So yeah, so yeah, like I make it a point when just Too Mellow puts his records out on Bandcamp, which means that you get to choose what you pay. So I always overpay. I
Oh, that's
always,
cool.
I always either double the price or add an extra $5, depending. Because I'm like, yeah, you should. I, I want this that much.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought albums for like I bought $10 albums for like 15, $20. Because I'm like, well, if this album was on shelves, it would probably cost this much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool that most of that money is just going to go straight to him because of the way Bandcamp works. So, yeah, I'll I'll kick around extra money. It's supporting an artist. I do that with I mean, I don't have any I haven't pledged any Patreon to any artists, mainly because I haven't found any that I really want to kick money towards.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Mainly, it's supporting some of the YouTube people that I know who make great content. Just because YouTube screws animators too, so it's kind of rough.
I am not shocked.
I've one of my favorite animators slash artists name's Plague of Gripes. Yeah, he makes all his money through Patreon. He hates it. He's the kind of guy who's like, I hate asking for money. In fact, I don't even mention my Patreon, and it's like, well, you deserve to get paid for your work.
Right.
So,
And not everybody has it that lucky. Like
yeah.
not everybody just has people going, "Here, take my money."
Mm-hmm.
So he should be thankful for being in that position.
Yeah, he he has expressed thanks. He's explained it's like I just hate money. I need
Well,
it, but I hate
money
it.
does suck, so
Yeah.
I get that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of I guess my background more or less and what I'm trying to do. So I don't know if you want to go into it more in depth into like what you do, how you do things, just kind of maybe enlighten for people what the process is actually like instead of just request wait product, you know.
Well, if you want to talk process,
Mm-hmm.
I every artist works differently. I was trying to do it since I was balancing kind of like my own personal life, just everyday things with art, with working.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of set it up where I'd take so many a month, but I'd have like a wait list that's waitlisted out. I had like 3-month wait list.
Oh.
So I'd have like I have a Trello, which is how I keep my stuff organized and who's getting what month and who's kind of in line for what. And then I have everything written down. And then so that I'm kind of working through, but since I'm not working at, work anymore,
Mm-hmm.
now that I'm full time, come next year I'm going to be opening up stuff every month.
Hmm.
And I feel that that's going to so sometimes, I get kind of bogged down to where it's like, I don't feel like working on this piece of art right now, or I don't feel like working on art at all because everybody needs to take a break.
Yes.
And with all that other stuff going on, I just felt so drained. But now, and I even tweeted this morning, I've noticed now that I'm not working that typical job, even though I was still part-time, it was still, I had to get up, had to do all my routine stuff in the morning, had to get to work at a certain time, had to make sure I was clocked in, and then had to spend X amount of hours at work, and then I had to clock out, and then I had to drive home, and then I had to do, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now that I've realized since I'm not doing that, I've noticed that I've drawn more. I've drawn more for myself. I've drawn more at night. Normally I kind of had this once the sun goes down, I'm done mentality. But now that I don't have to worry about work at all, as far as, going and punching a time clock, I've been staying up till midnight working on art.
Damn.
It's just interesting how it works. So come the new year, I'm going to get into the system where I'm going to see what I feel like doing. And then when I open up commissions and stuff for that, I will open up specifically for that. Like, let's say 1 month I feel like doing just sketch work. I will open up for just sketch work. So I'm hoping that that's going to kind of also keep the motivation going, since I will be doing art all the time. So that's kind of, I feel like I should have gone and taken like a business class or something when I was in school, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, well, here I am running my own business. And I don't know anything about marketing myself. I just keep posting stuff and just throwing it out there, but sometimes I feel like it falls flat.
Yeah, it can. I mean, Facebook is probably... I hate to say it, but I think Facebook might be one of the worst places.
See, it probably is. And with the whole algorithm thing, that I keep finding out new things. There's like certain days that are better to post on than others. There's certain times that are better to post than others. If you post a link in your post, that'll cut the viewers down. Like, Facebook has its own way of sifting through things, and it's like, how am I supposed to link to outer websites if you guys are going to cut, my viewers down when I try to do that?
Have you tried Twitter?
Well, I'm on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm figuring out the Twitter algorithm too.
Oh, okay. Because the number one thing I've noticed with like Twitter is if you're into it, you'll see more of it. Like me, I don't think I even have you on Twitter. I should probably add you at some point. But like I am constantly retweeting art now.
Yeah.
And so that's most of my timeline now is just art, and it's like, this is great. I love this.
I know, and I've had so many people complaining about Twitter being a drama zone, but I do the same thing. I'm there for the art, and I'm there for my friends that are over there, and I don't see the drama. I see the art.
Yeah, if I do see drama, I just scroll.
And that's just what you gotta do. People complain about it so much, and it's like, you have a finger. You are capable of just sliding past it. Don't get involved. Just don't.
Yeah, no, because Lord knows, like any other human being, there is a certain part of me that enjoys it, even though it makes me extremely uncomfortable and very stressed. There's a certain part of me that's like, I can get
that popcorn out.
better. I can get real deep into this. I can help move this.
Right,
so
but don't do it.
No, it's always a mistake. But yeah.
Every time I've gotten involved, somebody usually tries to chew my head off, and it's like, oh, that's why I shouldn't have gotten involved.
Yeah. So, Twitter is the only social media that I consistently do anything on. And honestly, nowadays, it's just art appreciation. There's a whole ton of Japanese artists that do some of the most amazing, specifically Pokemon art. Like that's all I see, because I follow a bunch of Pokemon Twitter accounts, and then I started picking up on like all this Pokemon art, and I'm like, man, these people are really good.
I know. I see some of that stuff too, and I find a piece of artwork and it's like, wow, this is great, and then I go, oh, of course they're Japanese. Of course they are. They're like, they breed artists over there. It's like, they're so good.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. They really it feels like they almost have a more, I wouldn't say art centric, but there's definitely, because of manga and anime, like there's definitely a bigger chunk of their culture that clearly must be like, no, art is a way to go.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a way to make it huge.
Right.
So that's just my assumption. But like the cool part is seeing just good art, and it's like,
Well, on Twitter too, I've seen a lot of artists they've gained a lot of ground quickly because of people, but it takes people retweeting their stuff. So I
yeah,
always, when I post my stuff, it's like, guys, please just retweet it. It takes you 2 seconds. Just retweet it. The more people retweet it, the more people are going to see it. And the
yeah,
more chances I'm going to get of more followers. So it's like, just retweet it. It's free.
yeah. I used to feel weird about retweeting because I had it in my head that it's like, it felt like I was stealing, which is the weirdest way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
That is kind of weird.
it felt like that to me because it felt like, well, this is now going to appear in my thing, and I'm not really putting out content. Like the most content I had were status updates on some of the stupid Pokemon runs I was doing, which is why my current Twitter name is a reference to a really dumb run I did in Red version with a Beedrill. I beat the entire game. I beat the entire game with it, so I am the champ,
Wow.
and I named it the Champion. So I am the champion, Phil, and I'm
Oh, that's
like,
good.
and so a lot. I've noticed that I follow a lot of specific Pokemon fan accounts. Like I think they're called, they're referred to as propaganda accounts or Ganda accounts. I think they've sort of thought like I'm a Beedrill one. And I'm like, no,
It's like,
but
no, guys, I
I
had
did
this thing.
I did this thing and I'm doing it in other games. I wanted to change my thing to the Shedinja run that I did. Because that one I'm way more proud of because
Mm-hmm.
Shedinja is terrible. Um, but I don't know. Either way, I actually realized I started getting followers as I retweeted just art.
Really?
I've actually just had like two random people, one guy who draws comics and this Pikachu account, like sad, like depressed Pikachu something. Just out of the blue, just like I started getting followers. There was also a Twitter sex bot, but you know.
We all get those.
Well, I didn't until around the time when I started getting people like following me, which is so weird because I'm like, why are you following me? I literally only retweet art.
Maybe they're following you to see what you retweet because they like the content.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fantastic Pokemon art that I'm just like, this is amazing. Look at this. If you want, I don't know. It's just I've started to take I started to use retweets as like, I'll like things if I just want to make that number go up, but if I love the art, oh yeah, that's getting retweeted.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Mm-hmm.
I've started to treat it as like, is this a poster I would put on my wall? Yes.
That's
then
very fair.
then
That's
re,
very fair.
then retweet it because I've got some posters that I need to start covering my walls with because I've already got it's not a wall scroll per se, but it's like it's essentially a scroll, but it's fabric, and it's Mega Man X box art, and I'm like, yeah, that's going over my front door, or not my front door, my bedroom door.
Right.
So I want to turn. I want to turn my living space into like, when you walk into it, you're like, oh, that's what he's about. Where it becomes super easy to go like, oh, he's a massive nerd. Okay.
Yep.
That way it's like, I mean, that has to do with like the shirts that I wear. And I recently bought myself, or I pre-ordered for myself a watch that is based off of one of my favorite video games. Like, I want to turn my style into this sort of palette for like screaming out what I love.
You're just talking about this, and I'm sitting over here going, yep, looking at all my freaking video game stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I live that world, so
Yeah, I want to live it more because
it's a good world. Because you just, if you're not feeling good and you just sit back and you look at your posters and you just start thinking about that game you played and maybe one of the best times you had in that game, and then you're like, oh yeah.
mm-hmm.
And then your mood just lightens automatically. It's like, yep, see, poster did its job.
Yeah, no, my favorite one is when I started getting the t-shirts. I am more excited than you would expect when I go to choose my shirt for the day, because I'm like, all right, what great piece of art for one of my favorite games do I want to wear? Because that's what I own. So I'm like, and like I saved my favorite one for my Fridays. It's a beautiful red shirt with the main protagonist from Persona 5, his persona, and it's like got, and it's the edgiest thing I own, but it's got
Sounds like a good Friday shirt.
oh yeah, I know, and it's a red, and there's like chains everywhere because that's part of the aesthetic, and it's just this beautiful art of Arsene, and it says Arsene in like these spiky letters, and I look at that shirt and I smile to myself because that is like everything that I adore and that I loved unabashedly when I was like 14 to 22. And now I look at it and there's just that small part of it's like, but I still love it. I still love that edge. I can't quite go deep, but like it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but like I am drawn towards the sort of darker fashion sense, I guess I would put it. Uh, it tends to pull my attention. Anything that's actually the most interesting thing is that anything that is I would consider to be unique or something that I don't see very often always draws my attention.
Hey, that makes sense.
So like like everyone I talk to at work is some level of fascinating. Now, another thing I kind of wanted to talk about is like, where do you get like your inspiration? Like, what sparks things that sort of like when I write, I'll just hit a thought that I mean it won't even necessarily be when I'm writing, but I'll hit like an idea, and I'll be like, I like that, and then I'll just build on it in my writing. Like my current set of lyrics were built on like this joke I made about myself that I'm like, I feel like I'm a character in the wrong genre.
Okay.
Like I feel like I'm a freaking. Do you watch anime?
I do.
Okay.
Not a lot, but I do.
Okay, I feel like I'm a shonen protagonist in like a slice of life anime.
Okay.
Like it's like it's that bad where I've got these really deep, headstrong, like, or not headstrong. That's not the word I'm looking for. Like deeply held convictions and morals that kind of just, when you apply them to regular life, they don't work very well.
Yeah.
They actually make you come across as like a bit of a hard ass and a little too intense. So, like, yeah, I feel out of place. Like I'm, like my current self is just like not built for being at work, like at a job.
Nice.
Like I feel like sometimes I feel like I should be a part of something bigger, but I'm also an introvert, so how's that gonna work? I'm not
Well, I
gonna
get that too.
I'm not gonna get out there and like rally a bunch of people and go on a march because God forbid I talk to that first person and I feel like I say something stupid and it's just all gonna derail from there. So and that's what led to in a sense that's what's kind of motivating me to do music is I want to use music to inspire some of the same feelings that I got when I listened to some of like Two Mellows lyrics, where he's got one that's like about it's just about don't be so hard on yourself. You're always making progress,
Hmm.
and don't get hung up on the fact that you're not going as fast as you feel like you should because you're doing amazing things. You're just by making tiny bits of progress every day, you're already doing more than like most people.
Hmm.
Like the fact that I've written a song in about a week just by taking 3 or 4 minutes to write 2 lines a day
Right.
is probably more than most other people who are like thinking about making music and just don't. I mean, hell, I was one of those people.
Right.
I would
You just
talk.
had to get to your time.
Yeah,
It just had to. It wasn't your time yet.
yeah. Like it honestly took my last relationship. I didn't listen to my music like pretty much at all
Ooh, that's not good.
because Rachel didn't like it.
Right.
I just said her name.
You did. But this is a first name basis, and there are thousands of people with that name. So
Yes, and she is never going to listen to this. So,
no, you're good. So
yep.
you're good.
All right, but yeah, she didn't really like my music, and in fact, would often put in her headphones when I would put on my music, like at the car. So at some point, I just stopped listening to it. And what was really interesting is after we broke up, I started listening to it again, and it
Mm,
hit me even stronger. And I went, "Oh no, this was important."
right.
And I didn't realize it until I lost it.
Hmm.
And then, funny enough, one of his songs is called "Return of the Soul," and like one of the lines is like, like I'm trying to put it together in my head. It's "Return of the Soul." Here to let you know I'm so free you can't stop me now. It's the return of my smile because it's been a while. And I went, oh yeah,
You're like, ah, that speaks deeply to me.
that is 100% literally how I'm feeling right now.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, it's like like it took having it be a big part of my life and then completely letting it go to realize how important it really was to me and to finally give me that final kick in the pants that's like, no, this is the thing. It's because I struggled with what I wanted to do with my life for most of my life. I mean, hell, I'm a college dropout. Like I went to Iowa State for all of like 7 months because I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my
Right.
life.
Well, and at least you didn't go for 2 to 4 years and just waste all that money on something that you weren't even going to use.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's that.
yeah. But like I could list off for you like probably a dozen different professions that I thought I wanted to get into until I started to really come to terms with who I am, which was another byproduct of my relationship ending, and taking stock of what was left and
Hmm.
how that relationship really taught me how important it is to not just do things for other people's sake.
Well, see, you should never do that.
Yeah, well,
Ever.
most of my life has been that,
Oh,
and
no, I get it. I've had plenty of relationships just like that. And it's like you talk about giving up parts of yourself for another person. Before I started dating my current girlfriend, I pretty much told myself, okay, I am not dating anybody else that can't understand that I do want to be a full-time artist. I do draw, maybe some not quite safe for work things
Yeah.
of fictional characters. They have to be okay with that. I would like them to be artistic themselves.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what kind of art that they're into, as long as they're artistic, because I find that being around other creative minds helps me be even more creative.
Oh yeah.
If you're not around a creative mind, they're just life sucking. My first relationship was not creative at all. I was in that relationship for 10 years. I
Oh,
stagnated hard.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I also didn't know who I was as a person.
Mm.
So I just kind of like, at the point I was just kind of like, oh well, this is my life now. But then when
Mm-hmm.
I found myself, oddly enough, through a video game,
Hmm.
I was like, well, shit. Everything just flipped upside down, and now I'm not with that person. I've been through multiple other relationships, and now here I am,
Mm-hmm.
trying my art full time.
I
you know,
mean,
yeah,
hmm?
I was buying a house. I was literally 15 minutes away from work, so it's like I kind of was living that 15-minute away from work dream,
Yeah.
making decent money. And then my significant other was making decent money, and we had money, and we had our own place. And it's like it just wasn't. I wasn't. At the end of the day, I decided I'm not settling.
Yeah.
I had settled for so long, and I was like, nope, screw it. I'm done settling.
Yeah. This has been an extremely far tangent, I realize,
Yes, it has.
from what was supposed to be like inspiration, like because for writing I feel like it's almost simpler because it's for me it can be just as simple as like a statement. I don't know if like for art or for drawing or the I guess I consider them more visually complex. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if it's the same.
for me personally, I'll see something in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. It'll get triggered by an event in real life, or a lot of my personal art has to do with my personal life.
Hmm.
So when I come up with an idea, it's something that like going on in my life, and it's like, hey, I could translate that into my fictional world and make my character deal with it, which is sometimes really fun. Plus, I am not a writer. However, I have written.
Hmm.
I would be more like a hobbyist writer if that's the case. But I've written stories like I'd have a falling out with a friend, or
Mm-hmm.
somebody'd lie to me. Like somebody at one point in my life, there was somebody in my life that lied to me about not only being in the service, but also lied to me about having brain cancer. And that was after he knew that my dad had been diagnosed with lung cancer at
Oh.
one point. Like, this was a couple years later after my dad had been diagnosed. My dad did get through it the first time.
Okay.
So my dad was still around at the time.
Hmm.
However, he did not make it the second time.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was tough. But this guy lied to me, and I just remember being so mad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, he also took advantage of one of my friends,
Mm-hmm.
who I ended up, later on in life dating, and that didn't work out because that friend also had some things behind, like in their past that I didn't know about at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, what I was seeing was this person who was lying about stuff you should never lie about,
Mm-hmm.
treating my best friend in ways that you should never treat somebody.
Yeah.
So I took it upon myself to write a story, basically a very gory story, killing him off.
Hmm.
I brought my friend's character into it. I brought my other characters into it. I wrote this massive story, and then I drew a piece of artwork for it.
Hmm.
So, like, I used the story to come up with the piece of artwork. So that's kind of how, when I draw art, I usually have little stories in my head that instead of writing them out, I draw them out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always kind of fun that way, because like my girlfriend and I, we play Red Dead Redemption Online a lot,
Okay.
and we're coming up with a story with our characters
Oh, that's
in
fun.
that universe. Yes. So we come up with these ideas. She'll go, "Hey, I thought my character Kami today, when I was at work, she does massage, so she's in her head a lot. So
Ah.
she's thinking all the time about our stuff, like our game and our story and her character and my character. And she'll come to me and she'll be like, "Hey, I thought of this idea," and she'll kind of put it out there. And then, like, if it clicks with me, I might go, "That's a really good idea. I'm gonna draw that." So then I'll draw it out.
Okay.
Or we'll plan on putting it into our story so I could draw it out later, because I want to eventually draw our story.
Yeah.
Because I want to do more like story art type stuff. I've got this friend that I know who's phenomenal. She's amazing with story art. She's really into Skyrim right now.
Oh, okay.
And she's got this weird little fictional crush on Ulfric. And she made this character, and him and this character, like, him and her character have this dynamic that's just, it's the same freaking dynamic that my girlfriend and, like, my character have. So it's like, I just love seeing her draw this stuff out. And she always makes fun of herself because she says it's pretty much just trash.
Oh.
Because it's like that lovey-dovey, kind of trashy, almost kind of like cringy, obsessive.
But I eat that shit up.
I know, it's the best. It's the best, and that's what I want to do with the Red Dead stuff. I want to do that cringy, like, romantic-y bullshit type story that just people go, "Oh my god, this is really good."
Yeah. Like the most obnoxious romantic that I know of, other than my friend Nate. Like anything that's like super lovey, like.
I know hers is since Ulfric is, royalty. She has it where her character not good enough for him.
Ah, yes.
But they have that romance, and it's like, well, you know what? It doesn't matter if you're not good enough for him. You are who he wants. So then there's that back and forth thing, and she's been pumping it out lately, and it's just amazing. And I always tell her, I was like, you know what? You're like God to me. It's like, you are up here, and I love your shit. And she goes, "Oh, don't say that. Your shit's awesome too." And bickering.
Yeah.
Whose stuff is better?
Oh, man.
And it's like, damn it. She's really good. The thing that I actually envy her is she's really good at laying the pages out. She knows exactly what to draw, exactly where to draw it, exactly how to depict it. And I've picked her brains about it, but the thing is, I just need to practice.
Yeah.
It's like, I have the skill, I have the ability, I just have to practice, and that's all it is. Because before she was doing Skyrim, she did Star Wars.
Oh.
Huge into Star Wars. I didn't follow those as much because I was never a Star Wars fan.
Oh, okay.
But when she got into Skyrim, it's like, okay, this I can get behind.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a massive Star Wars nerd.
Yeah, Star Wars is great. I'm more like, I like the more things that, like, take place on Earth. I'm not so much a in the stars person, so she did really great comics, but it just, I looked at them for the art, but I didn't really follow the story she was writing.
Okay. That just reminded me, the guy I talked about before, Plague of Gripes, he made a point of, like, saying, like, it's important to tell a story with your art. It's like, you can't just, if you just draw a picture, okay, but if you if you can look at a piece of art and it tells, it tells a story, however small or long, like, that's way more impactful, because it's art that because this gets real awkward, because I'm repeating words and then suddenly realizing I have to, like, process it a bit more to actually understand what what he might have meant, but it's like it's art that does more. It's like it,
Well, it's engaging.
yeah, and Lord knows I've looked at so many pictures, and like I'm a I'm actually a story writer kind of person. Like I love to. I mean, I was an only child growing up, so when I played with my toys, it was like there would always have to be something going on because you didn't have someone else to bounce off of. So I had to make stories and things, and yeah. So I think that might have been kind of the beginning of my want to tell, my want like I am interested in telling stories. I just don't. I haven't quite settled on how I want to do it, and plus my own utter distaste for my writing is just very difficult to get past. I do have an idea, which, funny enough, I hate horror. Like what most people would consider to be horror movies, I hate them. They make me queasy, and I feel like they're just gore porn, and it just makes me
Yeah.
it makes me disgusted.
Yeah.
But I love what horror is actually supposed to mean, which is fear of the unknown. Horror is supposed to be this feeling of fear from lack of understanding. And I actually had an idea for a sort of psychological horror.
I was gonna say, I think that would depend on the person, because a lot of the stuff I've written that had to do with basically ending in a death, like a very torturous, nasty death, had to do with a real person. But I never felt like I had to run it by them because names were changed. You know, obviously it was fictional. There's no way it ever happened that way. You know,
Yeah.
but there were like the current thing I'm working on with my girlfriend, because this person that I just kicked out of my life tried to cause a rift between my girlfriend and I. So my girlfriend doesn't like her either. So she kind of wrote down, she has, in her mind, she's got a bar that her characters all mingle in. So she's writing this out and coming up with character ideas and stuff like that to put in this bar. So she took this and she put it in this bar. And she wrote this story about this bar. And I know that she took inspiration off of some of the stories that I had written, that I had read her, like, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before.
Yeah.
But she kind of wrote out the really rough draft, and now I'm going in and I'm putting really personal things in there, like what this person used to call me. So like she had nicknames for me. So her character, the character that's based off of her, is calling my character those same nicknames. So
Okay.
just to kind of tie the two together, but it's so different, and there's nobody mentioned by actual real name, that I don't feel I have to reach out to this person and go, hey, is this okay if I post this online?
Yeah.
Is this okay if I post your death along with a picture that has blood all over it? Like, is that
Yeah.
all right?
Well,
It's like, thanks. Now I have all the rights to it.
yeah. Which sadly that story never really coalesced because I started to realize it was very. It was a compilation of just everything that I thought was really cool. And there were certain bits of it that really didn't serve the story. Like, I had a part where the main character, a part of her personality was from the fact that she was sexually assaulted. But I only put that in there to, like, beat people over the head with it. To be like, you have to acknowledge this, that this happens.
Right.
And it's like, I don't need to be a social justice warrior with my
No.
with my writing. That's actually very ill advised. Not to mention there was a character that I almost completely based off of myself, and I realized was becoming the main character instead. Even though that sucked, and it was just like a, not really like a power fantasy, but still fantasy nonetheless. Since I'm very critical of myself, he wasn't going to be like all powerful, but He was definitely a little too important for how I was writing him. So that story just fell apart under the weight of like, this sucks.
I get that. The one, going back to her again, the lady I just kicked out of my life, same thing. We had a story that we've been working on for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh.
And it's just gonna sit in Discord and collect dust.
Mm.
But it's okay, because the thing about it is, I had a direction that, like, when we first started, there was a clear and obvious direction it was gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least what we did was we kind of role played it out. We didn't really just write a story. We take turns writing posts.
Yes.
So like, she'd write her character, I'd write mine. She'd write hers, I'd write mine.
Mm-hmm.
And we might kind of discuss afterwards, what we wanted to like see come of it.
Yeah.
Like maybe where the next like when we sat down and actually worked on it, where that might end up going.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where the thing about her is she was very controlling.
Mm.
And at the time, I didn't really notice it, because I was kind of desperate for a friend. And this was somebody that actually had, she could write. So we'd write together. So it's like, I felt like I was getting my creativity, kind of my little glass of water and my little creativity. I was all excited about it. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. And anyways, so like, I was just thrilled that her and I were writing the story together.
Mm-hmm.
And she started going, well, today I want to do this, or I want them to do this. So I bought a character. I bought a horse from some random artist on some random website that had a horn, because it was a Junicorn thing, and they were selling all the different horses that they had made that month.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, I'll support them. I like the art. I will buy that horse. I bought the horse.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend's like, well, we should take our story and your character should get that horse and this and this and this. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to what we're writing.
Yeah.
Like, my character lives in a trailer in the middle of, like, the woods. Why the fuck would he have a horse, and why would he be chasing a train with it?
Yeah.
Like, that's a Western thing. That's what, like, in the story that my girlfriend and I are working on, that would happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Not in this, like, current day situation. No.
Yeah.
And then she played this Far Cry game. I think it was the last Far Cry. And she goes, I want my character to get thrown into a fighting ring, because her character was kind of a beast. She goes, I want my character to get put in this ring and fight with these people. And then your character can come in and save her, and she could bite him, and then that's how he turns into a werewolf. And I was thinking, wait a minute, what? Why? Like, okay, creative senses here are, okay, I get it. You just played this video game. You just had this battle in this, ring or whatever. But why in our story?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. But I did it. I did it for her.
Yeah.
And then it actually was interesting, because that's where it ended.
Oh.
We stopped writing after that. He went in there, saved her, she bit him, he got thrown off in a pile of bodies, dead bodies. They just chucked him out in the woods.
Yeah.
And then they carted her off. She just disappeared.
Oh.
So I felt that was a very good ending for the story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the fact that, that's it, it's done.
Yeah.
And she's gone. So it's like, it's interesting how stuff like that works out. So, will I ever go to her and ask, like what you did, to put that into a different story? No, I will not.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely don't blame you, especially, I mean, if the story was complete, like, the whole reason I was using ideas from the story we had worked on was that it wasn't complete, and it had bits and pieces of things and ideas that I wanted to work with. Mm-hmm. And I realized I'm going to be pulling a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of it that I was taking from what were essentially our brainstorming sessions, where we would we basically we did something very similar, but it wasn't through Discord. We would write and then send it. Or I think we might have used a shared document, which is very which was very awkward, because we both wrote in different fonts.
I've done that too.
Oh man, I just remember that very clearly. Of like, this is so weird. We're not using the same style, and is clashing super hard. But yeah, no, we would have like brainstorming sessions and kind of like try and come to a consensus on where things were gonna go, and we were both very hard headed, but also
Mm-hmm.
we both kind of gave in certain places. It was actually very healthy when I think
Mm-hmm.
about it. Like I think we've even both talked about people we look up to because I had put that in
Mm-hmm.
there. Like mine's obviously too mellow. Like he's just there's enough in common that I feel like I can. I mean, he got started earlier than I did, so he's not like a completely perfect analog for what I'm trying to do, but the feeling of someone who's an introvert and is okay with it and still does this and still makes music and wants to tell stories and also doesn't do freestyle, which I'm like, thank God, because Lord knows I cannot freestyle rap for the life. I could, but I don't want to, because I'm so particular about the words that I use.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yeah,
freestyle would
that'd be hard.
it would be a disaster. So yeah. Other than that, like there are people in the video game industry that are inspirations to me. Like I'm real big into Souls games, and the guy who more or less created them, he he switched careers in like his mid 30s
Oh yeah,
to
you don't
game
have to
design.
be a baby and like do all this stuff and know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Young, you can figure out what you want to do when you're 50.
yeah,
There's no time limit.
yeah,
There's absolutely no time limit.
yeah. And just like seeing like, man, this guy's like way older than me, and he just completely switched jobs because he played a video game and went, "This is what I want to do with my life." And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and I'm having that moment where I'm listening to music, and I'm realizing how much of an impact it has, and it's like, I want to give this to people.
Right. Yeah,
I
do it.
and so yeah, so I just got to go through the effort. But yeah, no, like I mean, like as far as like hard work goes, sadly, my mom is actually not a real inspiration on that front, but my dad is. So my dad, like I said, he was an engineer, but he actually didn't. He unfortunately didn't get really good grades in school, so
Mm-hmm.
his performance really held him back, and he wasn't able to really get an engineering job. So he had to start from like the absolute bottom
Ooh.
and work his way up. But he did, and he just constantly put in that effort and made it a point to care about the effort that you put in and
Mm-hmm.
real like how important it is to be like, no, I'm going to do a good job here because it's what I want. Because I want to put out there my best, or like, you know, some equivalent thereof. I mean, you also can't get so hung up on doing your absolute best. Like that's something I hear from creative types all the
Well, you
time.
you can't because in order to learn, you have to make mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't always do your best. You can try to always do your best, but you can't if you don't do your best, you can't beat yourself up over it. It's not going to get you anywhere.
yeah. Well,
Just accept that you learned a lesson and move on to the next thing.
but
But was there anything else you wanted to touch on real quick? Because I need to get going here soon.
yeah.
It's getting about supper time and I'm
No, I
hungry.
understand that. Uh, I mean, I only had like 4 questions on here. I'm sure I would have come up with more, but the
Hmm.
the PC issues were a
Right.
problem. So,
Well,
I
if you ever wanted to do another like follow up one later after
yeah,
you do a few more, we could always do that too.
absolutely.
Like I'd be down to do it again.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely thought about having repeat guests.
Hmm.
I just gotta start lining up more people. I haven't talked to anyone else yet. Uh,
Well, yeah, and you have time.
yeah. So, I guess for you, this would be the point where I'd say, you know, plug your shit. Where can people find you? Like, I want this to be also like a form of advertisement. So, like, where can people find your work? Like, what do you got that people can check out?
Right. Well, I do have a Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still building that, but I'm hoping that I can build it enough where, I'd like to be able to back off on commissions a bit and work on more personal stuff, some more Western stuff, more character art, more story art
Mm-hmm.
would be kind of like a goal.
Yeah.
I do have a Twitter, and my Patreon and my Twitter are the same.
Okay.
They're they're basically my Discord name, which is DaddyTrevP.
Mm.
That's it.
Okay.
So if you wanted to plug that in anywhere.
I will write that down so that I put it in so that I can. I don't think I'll be the one uploading it, so I'll have to make sure that they. I'll have to make sure that they put it in the description.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, if they want to put my Discord in the description too, I do have a Discord art server.
Oh, that's cool. What's?
Yeah, Nikita's in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she doesn't talk much in it, but she's in it.
Okay.
Let me see it. I think I can get you an invite. Let me look.
Okay.
It's just I have Patreon stuff in it too, so
Mm-hmm.
the general public won't see that unless you're actually part of my Patreon.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll invite you so that you can get into it. I will warn that there are not safe for work things.
That's perfectly fine. Trust me, I am. I might not retweet it on Twitter, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I don't appreciate it. So.
Yeah, you don't. I totally get that. A lot of people don't want not safe for work stuff associated with them. So
Yeah, and I mean,
I get that.
there's a part of me that will probably eventually just give that up and just post like whatever, because.
Well, I've noticed that a lot of not safe for work stuff tends to get you a lot of attention.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So and my mom she tells me, she goes, you know what? If you can make money off of it and people enjoy it and you enjoy it, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't even have to interact in it. You can simply just stalk it if you want. You can mute it if you want. You don't,
Yeah.
I've got people that tend to like to talk a lot, and then I've just got some spots for artwork.
Okay.
So.
All right. Yeah. No. I'll make sure that these things are there so that not just talking to artists, just flap my gums. Like there's definitely more to. I have hopes and dreams for this podcast, I would say. So.
Well, I could see it going somewhere. You just gotta get going.
Yeah, I do. I gotta get it on. Like my main podcast, which is actually on a break, is literally only on YouTube, and it bugs me to this day. It's like people don't listen to podcasts on YouTube primarily. Whatever. Yeah. So, all right. So, thanks for being on this first episode.
Well, of course.
I will come up with a funny title for it, other than like an episode title. Yeah, just.
You're welcome.
Like I really appreciate this because this is so. It's good for me to be able to talk about this stuff. So.
Well, yeah, and you said a lot of things today. It's like, well, we do have a lot in common. So.
Yeah. No, I'm very thankful for that. I'm trying to. I'm actually trying to kind of narrow down people in my life to people I actually have stuff in common with. So.
Well, as it should be.
Yeah. So.
Like, it'd be dumb just to have a friend that you're not connection whatsoever, other than, well, I talked to them once.
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're gonna be a good friend for you.
Yeah, no, that's very true. So, all right. Well, for those of you listening, I don't know when the next guest will be. That will be up to my next guest. But I guess look forward to share this thing around if you like it. If you don't like it, let me know. Maybe there's something in the structure I can change. But thank you very much for being here and being awesome.
You're welcome.
And I will see you all later.